Hey guys, this is Buford with Scholarships for Soccer, and tonight we have a very special guest. His name is Dan Cohen. He is a coach of U16 and U17 boys, and also the director of coaching at Charleston Soccer Club. So he's very knowledgeable. Dan, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Good to be here.
Oh, glad to have you. Okay, so U16 and U17 boys. Fortunately, unfortunately, I am familiar with that age group. First of all, when boys come to you at U16, what skills are you expecting them to have when they get to your team?
I think the first differentiation is about the level of play, right? So players that are just looking simply to play with their friends for fun versus players that are looking to be competitive, maybe push on to a higher level, maybe go and play collegiately. So the differentiation is quite important. Players who are just there looking to play with their friends for fun, there's not really a lot that you need other than enjoyment for the game, a willingness to be at the games and the practices, and a want to learn. What that learning is for one individual versus another can be very, very different from somebody else. For the higher level players, for those that are maybe looking to push on collegiately or looking to push up a level from a team that they're in, or just generally looking to be a good level soccer player, I think at U16 there has to be a basis of knowledge of the game, both technically and tactically. You shouldn't, as a coach, have to teach a 15-year-old how to pass a ball if they're trying to play at the top level of the game. You shouldn't have to teach a 15-year-old, to switch from right to left when the ball comes inside. So I think a basic knowledge of understanding tactical and technical at that age is the absolute basics for me.
Okay, and what do you do if a kid is on one of the higher level teams, and I guess theoretically that shouldn't happen, but sometimes it does, and they're lacking in a skill or two. Are you trying to help? You got a limited amount of practice time, so at that level you can't really spend a whole lot of time on it. But are you asking them to make it up on their own, or?
I think the first thing is honesty, right? With every player, it doesn't matter if you've got a roster of 18, it doesn't matter whether player 1 or player 18, they all need honesty as to what they need to do to improve. So if a player maybe shouldn't be there, has been placed incorrectly, it's not the player's fault. And it might not be the coach's fault. That coach might not have picked the team, but they might have picked the team. And therefore, it doesn't matter whose fault it is per se. You've got the roster in front of you. So it's about improving every player. One of the things that I learned as a young coach, 18 years old, just started coaching, was to pitch the vast majority of your sessions towards your top player. The thought process being that if your top player gets better, everyone else behind should catch them. And so that's the team element of the practice. For the individuals, that honesty is, listen, you need to work on this, you need to do this. When individualization within sessions is something that a lot of people talk about and something that people do without realizing probably, where, you're working on one thing because you're over here at this level, but somebody else is at this level. So they're working on the same idea. They might be crossing and finishing, and one person's working on, Rabona crossing, for example, whereas somebody else might just be working on setting the ball in front of them and crossing it. And so it's the same session, but the individuals are working on different things. So as a coach, you have to make sure that every player is getting better. But the honesty part with a player that maybe has been placed incorrectly is that player should also potentially, if a club environment allows for it, should potentially be able to guest play down to what probably is more an appropriate level and get more game time. So I had a player myself who was in a team that they probably shouldn't have been in. Their attitude was unbelievable. Their training ethic, their work rate, everything. You couldn't fault it. The best kid you've ever seen, but unfortunately he was just placed incorrectly. But he was the most improved player in the team. By the end of the season, he'd improved more than anybody else. He probably hadn't improved to a point where he was deserving yet to be on that team. That's not his fault. He's done what he's been asked to do.
Yes.
And so the opportunity, or we had evaluations. I spoke to that particular player. I said, listen, you've improved massively, but you need to go and get more game time. You can't do all the practice and never play. You never get to see that improvement. So I had the honest conversation with him. We placed him onto the second team instead for this coming season. But he will practice with the top team. He will probably guest play with the top team. But for that player, he needs to go and get as many minutes as possible in an environment more suited to his ability to become the best player possible. And so I think a lot of coaches do kind of what you almost hinted at there, which is, I'm going to concentrate on my session, and if this player can't do it, well, tough. And that, for me, is the wrong attitude. Tell a player what they're not good enough at or what they need to improve at. And if they want to do it themselves, they will. And if they don't want to do it themselves, then it's an easy conversation. So I think the biggest thing for me as a coach has always been honesty. And I will probably, to my own detriment, I'm too honest maybe, but I would rather be too honest than have someone say to me in a year's time, I lied to them.
Okay, and does that honesty extend to parents? I mean, I know, as a dad, my son is the best soccer player in the world.
Absolutely.
And, so sometimes somebody has to inject a little bit of reality. How do you handle that as a coach?
I think, and being really candid, I think my attitude on that's changed in the last 2 or 3 years since I became a dad. And my kids are not old enough to be playing travel soccer or, in like your case, deciding whether or not they want to go to college or not. But I think as having become a dad, I've seen that, watching my kids grow up, people need to be honest with me because, as you say, your own kid's the best. My kid's the best ballet dancer in the world. I don't know anything about ballet, but she's the best. Of course she's the best. And if she asks me, of course, she's the number one ballet dancer in the whole of the planet. But I think coaches, directors have to be honest with parents. But the honesty doesn't need to be horrible. It's, okay, so Buford, your kid wants to go to college to play soccer. This is where I believe he's at right now. And that's based on this profile or this knowledge or this understanding or this level of play. One of the things I think a lot of people get set on is, I want to go and play D1. Well, okay, going to play D1 for a massive Ivy League school is vastly different than playing D1 for a small school. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. There's 3 Division I schools here. Only one of them has a boys soccer program, but the 3 girls programs are all Division I. But none of them would be, the massive schools. And none of them are going to get to the Final 4 of the National Division I playoffs, but it's Division I. A couple of hours away is a Division II school that won the national championship for Division II a couple of years ago.
Talking about Winthrop?
I was actually talking about Lander, but yeah, Winthrop as well.
Okay, yeah.
Winthrop as well. But that's my wife's alma mater, so I should probably think more about Winthrop. But, and as you know, being in North Carolina, the Carolinas is blessed with a number of soccer programs, boys and girls, high level, medium level, low level, junior college, NAIA, the full spectrum. If anyone in the Carolinas wants to play collegiate soccer at any level, there is an option for everyone, and I will tell everyone that. But it's understanding what are you looking for. And so the honesty from me to parents, 100% it does come. But it doesn't need to be horrible honesty. I'm not going to turn around and go, your kid's a horrible kid. I might say to you, hey, listen, I didn't like the way he spoke to this teammate, or I didn't like the way he did this, or he acted in this manner around another coach, or whatever it might be. But you have to be honest, because as you say, if you just think your kid's the best kid, and then they get to U17, U18, U19, and the only place that recruits them is a tiny D3 school in the middle of nowhere who take anyone that can stand up and kick a ball because that's their recruiting pool, and that's the only place that he's good enough for, that's my fault, not yours. You've done everything. You've brought him to practice. You've brought him to games. You've probably paid for extra training. You've done the college ID camps. For us at our club, end of every season, we give an evaluation to every player. That evaluation has to be honest. Hey, if you want to go and play at this level, you need to do this. Or you've just finished your U17 year. If you don't improve at all, this is where I think you could play. So you have to be honest, because ultimately, and as horrible as this might sound, it's a business,
Yeah.
And if you're not honest in business, that comes back to bite you. And you've paid for my service, and that service includes honesty, right? If you go into Walmart and you buy something and it's broken, you take it back. So if I coach your kid for 5 years, and at the end of 5 years, he's worse than he started, you should get a 5-year refund, right? And so the honesty has to be there to parents and to the players. But I think there's a difference between being honest and being horrible, and being honest and, constructive criticism.
Okay. Now, when boys get the U16, the U17, somehow the testosterone kicks up a couple of notches. And how do you handle it when there's a brutally physical game, and your guys are getting physical and it gets really, really heated? How do you handle that as a coach?
I think there's two elements to it. I think the first element is if it's within the laws of the game, I'm okay with it. I refereed for nearly a decade. I played for well over 2 decades. And I think if it's in the laws of the game, I have no issue with it. If someone oversteps the mark, then we have an issue. I think the other element of it, and this is maybe the more human side, or maybe my attitude when I grew up, is the attitude I always had was don't start a fight, but finish one. And so if someone's going to start on me or my teammates, or as a coach, someone's going to start on one of my players, and the rest of the players are going to back that player on a human element, I don't know if I can disagree with that. As a coach, I probably have to.
Yeah.
But as a human, I don't think I can. Because if someone starts on, I got 2 daughters. If someone started on one of them and someone else backed that person in a fight, or if someone started on one of my daughter's friends and they backed that person up, I'd be okay with that. So I think as long as it's within the laws of the game, and as with that other element of, don't start a fight but finish one, then I think it's okay. Now, if you're an instigator, if you're the reason for the whole fight, then I have an issue.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to deal with that on a personal level. But I think I'm okay with physical. I grew up in England. I'm okay with the physical game. But I think there's an element of it, right? You don't want to see someone flying in with 2-footed studs up challenges. You don't want to see someone elbowing someone in a header on purpose, or, just kicking someone off the ball. You don't want to see that. But I think if it's within the laws of the game and it's someone putting in a tough tackle, or someone putting in a big challenge because that's the way they play, you don't want to stop that. But you want to make sure as a coach, they know how to tackle, how to header, how to do all those things physically within the laws of the game. But yes, the testosterone at U16 and U17.
Yes, it does. Okay. Now, at U16, U17, you got guys that are, thinking about the next level. And, one of the things that in all my talks with college coaches is they say that kids are never fit enough when they come. And how much time do you actually have to ever work on fitness, or, exactly?
Nil. And I told all my players that we had our first I'm doing 1 a week sessions through the off-season period. Our off-season down here, probably pretty similar to yours, is basically end of May to mid or end of July, depending on exactly when you restart. Our first games are August the 7th and 8th this year. And so I told all the players, we're bringing them out once a week, and I'm not doing anything with them. It's an hour and a half. It's 15 or 20 minutes of some kind of technical session. I'm not coaching them once in that time. It's just getting them touches on the ball, small-sided game, 11v11. That's my hour and a half with them, once a week. And truthfully, there are probably people that think that's enough to prepare them for the start of the season. And I tried to explain to them that what we do and I'm doing it on Saturday mornings, because, as you well know, anything after 3 o'clock at this time of year is a good chance of a storm. So I'm doing them Saturday morning, 9 a.m. And I said to them that what you do Monday to Friday is more important to prepare you for the start of the season. But I think the biggest problem specifically for that question, and I'm not going to get into the whole high school versus club debate because we will be here till the cows come home. But the biggest problem for that specific issue of kids not being fit enough for college when they go is the split season. Because what I do as a coach versus what their high school coach does could be completely different.
Yes. And
that's detrimental to their physical body because the way they recover, the way they train, the way they react, the way they develop the body has to take time to adapt. And so players mostly train 3 days a week. Some train twice, some train 4 times. And I mean with the club. 2, 3, or 4 times a week with their club. But let's take the 3 a week, which is what most clubs do. That's less than half the week. So if you don't have games, you're only doing soccer 3 times a week. At least 2 of those other days, those players should be individually taking care of their conditioning. It shouldn't be, in my opinion, and I might get yelled at on the Facebook group when this goes out, but it shouldn't be my job as a coach to make your kid conditioning fit. It's my job to make them match fit. If they turn up and they're out of shape, I can't get them ready for a game. But if they turn up and they've conditioned their bodies and we're getting match fit and we've got to build up that match fitness, it's 30 minutes, it's 50 minutes, it's 70 minutes, then it's 90 minutes, then that's great. That's what a coach should do. And I was talking to someone today who's going to college this fall, and their college coach they have to run 2.5 miles, I think 5 times a week, from basically whenever they've finished their spring season, wherever it was high school club or a college transfer, until they start college in August, when they move in August 1st. 2.5 miles, 5 times a week. For that very reason, what you just said. College coaches, the players aren't turning up fit enough. I think the big benefit recently has been the reintroduction of a lot more of the summer leagues, whether that's WPSL, UPSL for the boys. There's a lot more summer stuff going on. People that want to train truly through the summer can. But a lot of people don't. And they get their scholarship or they get their offer and they're like, all right, I'm done now. And then, as you say, they turn up day one and they're like, whoa. So I think the conditioning element alone has to be on the players as an individual. Coaches' jobs are to make those players match ready. You can't get match ready if you can't run. This talking from a man who can't run, but I'm happily retired as a player. So.
Yes, well, when I was in Alabama a couple of years ago with my son at ODP camp and college coaches, I believe I talked to 7 or 8 college coaches, and every single one of them said that the biggest impediment to someone going to college and play is most people have the skill, but they aren't fit enough for the coach to trust them in the game.
Mm-hmm. As a coach, you don't want to you're not going to start someone you think can't finish. Because if you start someone that you think can't finish, you've made a sub before you've even started the game. And at some levels, I coach in the NPL. Once you bring a player out, they can't go back in that half. So why would I want to make that sub before I've even started? Yeah. The college level, I think it's the same. Once you come out in a half, you can't go back in. There are other leagues where you can only get 3 subs a game or 5 subs a game. Or once you come out, you can't go back in at all. It's unlimited, like 7 subs, but you can only go in once. Well, in that case, I'm never going to start someone who I know can't finish. Someone gets hurt, okay? Someone gets tired through a game because they worked really hard, okay? Someone's not playing well, okay? But someone's not fit enough to start in the first place, that player's not going to start. Even in a situation where you get fully rolling subs.
Yeah.
Why are you going to start someone you know has to come out? So I think players don't do enough for themselves, but players probably don't get encouraged enough to do more by their coaches. Because as you well know, kids don't listen to their parents. And, I saw your post about it just before he went off to Governors. So, kids don't listen to their parents.
No.
And so coaches have to understand that. Kids listen to their coaches a lot more than they listen to their parents. There have been so many parents over my years coaching who called me and said, hey, I need you to talk to my son about what he's doing in school. Because kids listen to their coaches. Kids want to play soccer. And so a coach has to turn around and go, if you want to play the next game or you want to start games this season, you've got to be fit enough to do it. Because if you're not starting. And it's even more drastic at the college level. Because I've seen rosters of colleges with 35 plus players.
Well, yeah.
And if you're the 35th fittest out of 35, you're probably not even dressing on game day.
Nope.
Unfortunately.
Yes, that is the case. All right. I had one more question, and of course, just brain drain just left me. And it's probably a good one too.
Probably. You'll remember it just as you hang up.
Oh, absolutely. But that's gonna bother me the rest of the night. But
you'll message me about 3 a.m. when you wake up.
Yes. Well, Dan, you've given us some great information. I really appreciate you taking some time with us. If you see JB, who is Blanton O'Neal's son, give him a shout out.
No, I don't give him a shout. Where's the delete function? Get rid of that.
Tell him he still owes Dante a goal.
Still owes Dante a goal?
Yes. They played twice, and Dante's never scored on him. So
they play. I think he's heading out to Colorado next week.
Yeah, they're international.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate the information. It was really good stuff, and I know the parents will appreciate it. And hopefully we'll get to talk sometime soon again.
Absolutely. And I think, as I say, I am on the Facebook group. I am reasonably active. For people more than welcome, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll try and answer as honestly and as candidly as I can. And if parents have questions that maybe they're not comfortable asking their own club or their own coach, or their own director, I'll try and answer it as best I can. I think what you do, Buford, the Facebook group is an incredible thing. You've got so many people from across, not just the country, the world. I remember one of the regular posters from Australia. I think it's truly incredible, soccer parents coming together and helping and advising and supporting, others. And, I've got a 4-year-old who's started her little soccer, and I can't wait to, sit on the sideline, shout at the coach and shout at the ref. But
we're going to have to bring you a lollipop to sit on the sideline and be quiet.
All I'll say, and I'll leave him on this note, next time you speak to Blanton, just ask him about the zipper. It's all that needs saying, the zipper.
Okay. I'll do it. I can't wait to hear that story.
Honestly, it's a very good one.
All right. Well, thanks a lot again, Dan, and come back to see us.
Now, thank you for having me. Honestly, anytime.